Hi everyone, welcome back. Andrea here. Today's video is going to be a recreation of Nina Park's signature makeup look. A lot of you requested a look like this, and I thought, what is a better way to celebrate another fellow makeup artist than to create one of her looks? Now, Nina Park looks are particular because they are very, very natural, but they have this sensuality to it. They are somewhat mysterious, and I would say her look is defined by a micro liner, very, very natural looking skin, and blurred lips. These are kind of like the key elements. And I wanted to introduce you to my model, Ambre, because I thought she would do justice. So yeah, let's get into today's look. I like to start fresh, so I'm going to use cleansing balm on Ambre. She doesn't have much makeup, but she has very, very little makeup. So I thought, let's just start from scratch. And I like this cleansing balm from Dr. Althea, doing a little bit of massage. And then I remove everything with this very practical glove. I don't remember exactly the brand of this glove, but I will put it in the description box. I've basically put this glove under warm water, so it makes the whole process a lot easier. And then I'm using the vitamin C serum, also from Dr. Althea. This is not sponsored by Dr. Althea. I just love the skincare products from this brand, and I find that it works for so many skin types. So this vitamin C is very gentle, and I just like to press it onto the skin. And then I use the Ultramarine deep serum that I applied in the same way, just by tapping, because skin is like a sponge. So if you do press release motion, your products will be absorbed better. And then finally, I'm going to apply the Dr. Althea 345 Relief Cream, which is my staple moisturizer. I have to say that this is one of the miracles in my makeup kit. I love this, especially for people who have combination skin, acne prone skin. It's great because it has niacinamide and a lot of good ingredients for your skin. Then I like to apply something that is hydrating for the lips. And this time I went with a Milk Makeup Overnight Lip Mask. And under the eyes, I've applied a tiny little bit of the Allies of Skin Peptides and Omega's Firming Eye Cream. I find that this is really beautiful, brightening, and it does not disturb the concealer. And then I go with a very thin mist of the 345 Cream Mist. I adore this product, and you could just spray it on top of makeup or on bare skin. It's going to give you a glow, but not a greasy look. Rhode Peptide Eye Prep Depuffing Eye Patches. These are one of the best on the market, and I like to have them sit while I do the eye makeup and the eyebrows. The reason why I like them so much is because they don't slip and slide. They are truly fantastic. By doing the eyebrows first, you have more freedom to clean if you've made a mistake. So I start by cleaning the eyebrows from whatever skincare product I have on. And then I like to apply the brow powder duo. I always have this product in my makeup kit with the 7B brush. I'm telling you, there's no brush like the 7B from Anastasia Beverly Hills. I'm using the shade Soft Brown. And first I just brush the eyebrows through just to understand what I'm working with. And then I start to fill the eyebrows in very, very gently, not doing anything too dark. I like to use the lightest color in the duo. And then I brush it through really, really well. And only where there are gaps, I like to apply the eyebrow pencil, the Brow Wiz from Anastasia Beverly Hills. It's also in soft brown. And then I take a Q-tip with a little bit of micellar water and I clean the eyebrow. That makes a huge difference. Then I apply a little bit of eyebrow gel, and this one is from Victoria Beckham. This is called FeatherFix Brow Gel. And then again, I like to clean the eyebrows with concealer, but in a very, very natural way. You don't want to make it too blocky. You don't want to have a ton of concealer around the eyebrows. Just a very, very thin layer with a flat brush. Next, I will move on with the eyes. And I love the Armani eye tint. This is the most natural cream eyeshadow. So I like to apply it with synthetic brush. I always like to use a synthetic brush for a cream product. Then I mix two shades from the Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadow palette just to give the eyes a little bit of depth. I don't know if you can see, but it's very, very subtle. I basically apply a color that is mimicking her natural shadows. And with the pencil brush, I move on with, again, a neutral eyeshadow right at the base of the lashes to create a bit more depth. But I don't want to make it too precise, so I use a brush just to make sure it's feathered out. And with the tip of the brush, I make sure that the crease is a bit more structured, a bit more defined. Then I use a gel pencil. This is from Wonder Skin, and it's probably one of the most long-lasting pencils I've used. I would say not the easiest one to work with, because being a gel pencil, you know that these cannot be sharpened very, very precise, right? You will never have a super precise tip. So I take a very thin brush. This is from a brand called Dear A, and I basically elongate the eye with a little bit of eyeshadow from the Makeup by Mario Master Mattes palette. I take that darker brown and I make sure that the line is very delicate. I think one of the characteristics of Nina Park makeup is that very thin, almost like micro liner. And then in between the lashes and on the waterline on the top lashes, I apply this black gel liner. And I know that you probably cannot see it in the pictures, but I'm very sure that Nina Park uses very natural lashes. Now, I don't know exactly what type, but I was using Lashify in the style Amplify, which are the most natural lashes from Lashify, and then I apply a little bit of mascara just to mix the natural lash with the falsie so they look incredibly natural together. Then we move on to Complexion and I remove the eye patches. I have this palette from Dear A. I don't know if this is available, but I find this so useful. I use that salmony peachy shade and look what a difference it makes. Color correcting your under eyes can do wonders. If your concealer kind of looks gray, I dare you to try a color correcting product. It will change your life, and it doesn't have to be in a thick layer. You just use a little bit and then make sure you buff it in. Look what a difference it makes. Then I use the One Size B12 base thinner in Pink Pearl. This is something that you could use on its own. As you can see, it gives you a very natural glow, but like the most natural glow, or you can use it to mix this product with your foundation to make it even thinner. Decided to go with a Victoria Beckham foundation because it's the most elastic, the most natural finish. I really love this foundation, especially on her. I was very happy with the result, as you're going to see in a second. It's so natural. She doesn't really have much to cover. She's got beautiful skin, just a few imperfections here and there, but overall just really beautiful skin. So after I apply the foundation with a bigger brush, I like to take my beauty blender and just make sure everything is applied evenly. I kind of take the excess off. I make sure there's no foundation that creased, and then I move on with the Westman Atelier contour stick, and this is in the shade Biscuit. I use the contour stick for contouring the cheek, the jawline, a little bit on the forehead, but I find it very practical to use the contour stick from Victoria Beckham Beauty on the nose and the lips because it's very fine, right? And it's similar shade with the Westman Atelier. After mapping the contour, I just like to take a synthetic brush and buff it into the skin, making sure that it's really natural. Then I like to use this cream blush, and I make sure that I load my brush with the product. That makes a huge difference, and it honestly makes my life easier because the product is already kind of blended on the brush. And now look how natural, how beautiful the application is. The blush is from a brand called Misa. I basically just stipple it on top of the skin. And now it's time for a concealer, and I use the new Charlotte Tilbury Blur Concealer in a very thin layer. Like, she does not need a lot of concealer, but this is more to kind of brighten the under eyes. And then I go back with my blush and making sure that I go pretty close to the eyes with that blush. Now with a tiny painting brush, I kind of mix a couple of shades to correct only those imperfections, because honestly there was no point of applying more foundation. When you have imperfections like this, it's better to just correct them individually. That's just the most natural way. And then I just use the beauty blender to remove the excess. If you have a blemish in the place where you've applied the blush, mix your blush with your concealer to get that perfect shade that will erase the imperfection around the cheek. And I do the same thing for the place where I've applied bronzer or contour. I kind of mix the bronzer or the contour with a little bit of concealer. And then it's very important to set, especially those places where you have corrected some imperfections and of course the concealer, because it will crease. Even on very young people, concealer will crease because we all have expression around the eyes. And I use this powder puff very gently, not to lift the foundation underneath, with a little bit of powder from Hourglass. And then we move on with the lips, which is, as you know, my favorite part. I always like to start with powder, even on my own clients. Powder, and especially the contour powder, it's literally the best product to use around the lips to create that shading effect. And then I was using this lip shaper from Rhode, which I honestly love because of how creamy and how versatile it is. It's not super long lasting, but it's a great product, especially for beginners. Now I like to apply a lipstick all over the lips that I know it will last. Like no matter what I get on top, that base will always last. And I was using a lipstick from Chanel. It's a very popular color. And then only on the center of the lip, decided to go with this raspberry, this pinch of freshness, I would say, on the lips. With a small pencil brush, I took a dark brown pencil, and that one is from Lisa Eldridge, just to emphasize that inner corner, and then apply a little bit at the outer corner on the lower lashes. A touch of mascara on the lower lashes as well. I think that always frames the eye beautifully. And then I use Chanel Baume Essentiel, which is literally just a balm. It doesn't have any color, it just has this beautiful shine. And you want to make sure you're applying this with a powder puff or a beauty blender or a beauty sponge, because you don't want to lift that foundation underneath. Then I go back to those beauty marks and make them a bit more visible using the Freck pen. And then I go back to the cheeks. I feel like this beautiful blush is exactly what Ombre needs. That is from Dear A, and I set everything with the One Size Until Dawn setting spray just to lock everything in place. And this is the final look. I really hope you enjoyed it and that you learned something new. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Ombre, for being my model in today's video. As usual, everything I've mentioned is in the description down below along with the shades.